Meeting to order.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Any comments from the public?
Is my screen better right now?
Yep.
Yes, my name is John Labonte. I live at 10 Phillips Avenue, and I have a complaint about a mobile home being set up in my neighbor to the north of me, which is a violation of the village code 83-1. I have the village code here. That trailer has been parked in the my neighbor's yard since June 27th, 2021. It was pulled there by a truck with expired North Carolina plates. I have pictures, and I'm willing to show the board in a minute. The camper, which was pulled onto the property, has expired California plates, which is totally different from the truck. I informed Mr. Cooper, the code officer, of what was going on and the people who were living in there. I spoke to my neighbor who owns the majority of the property around me, Mr. George Legnard, and he informed me that he had a brief conversation with the owner of the trailer, and he said he intended to live there throughout the summer and throughout the winter. And Mr. Legnard at that point informed him that that would be quite impossible because of the weather conditions in the North Country. Plus, it would be quite impossible because of the code we have in the village of Rouses Point. After speaking to Mr. Cooper, he came up to my property and I showed him the trailer in question. I showed him where the electrical lines were hooked up to the trailer. I showed him where the water lines were hooked up to the trailer. I have seen people go in and out, a young couple, in and out of this trailer on numerous occasions, bringing groceries and having the air conditioner run all day and all night long. Mr. Cooper said he would speak to my neighbor in regards to this. Apparently he did. After he spoke to my neighbor, she apparently retained an attorney who then sent him a letter which he dropped off a copy of to my office. In that letter, the attorney made general statements, as any attorney would normally do, that on any given day in the village of Rouses Point, 30 or 40 camper trailers were hooked up to water and sewer in the village. Didn't name any particular street, name any particular address, just threw something out there hoping that it would stick to the wall, which he failed to do. He also went on to further say in the letter, which I hope Mr. Cooper has turned over to Mr. Bernane, that there was no hookup to this trailer at all. Once I saw the letter, I asked Trustee Pelkey and I asked Trustee Arnold to accompany me on different occasions to view the trailer and walk the property line of my property line as well as Mr. Legnard's. And I think they can confirm the fact that they both saw electrical power hooked up to this camper as well as water hooked up to this camper. I've been very patient. I was hoping after 2 weeks maybe they would withdraw the camper. That hasn't happened. They are going to stay there permanently, which is in violation, once again, of 83-1. This book and code was established to keep our village safe and secure and beautiful. If we keep allowing stuff like this to happen, we're not going to have a village per se. And as far as I'm concerned, I had to take pictures. I'm not trying to say anything about Mr. Cooper. But as far as I'm concerned, the village should buy this guy a camera if he doesn't have one. He should be able to go up and take pictures, turn it over to the village attorney, Mr. Bernane, seated to my right, and contact the code book along with the pictures and have Mr. Bernane write a letter to the property owner saying that she's in violation. Or Mr. Cooper should be presenting an appearance ticket with the violation. He doesn't have to argue with the property owner, and he doesn't have to argue with the attorney. That's for a judge to decide. That's for a court to decide. It's not for any attorney to intimidate Mr. Cooper or any member of this board. It's up for the court to decide, and that's what I'm asking to do. This thing has been going on over a month. I have a nice home. I pay a lot of taxes. And I'm asking you, Mr. Mayor, to get on Mr. Cooper and Mr. Renee and whatever you have to do to get this ball rolling, because this has been going on for over a month. Unless there's something here that you disagree with, Mr.
Nope.
Then I want some action, because this is totally absurd. And I can tell you another thing. I'll invite you, Mr. Pelkey, and Mr. Arnold. Anytime you want to go in my vehicle, and I can bring you through this village, there's a dozen violations that can be written up in this village. And somebody better start doing something quick, because our north end of the village is getting pretty raggy looking. And we elected you officials, and we hired Mr. Cooper to make sure that these things wouldn't happen as long as we got the code. These codes are passed by the state and federal, and they're mandatory in a lot of municipalities today. And I'm asking you and the board to enforce these rules. Thank you.
Do you have the pictures with you right now?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to look at them.
John, and that, do you have a picture of the dog thing that you mentioned to me?
Here's a picture of the plate that pulled the truck. If you look in the top left-hand corner, you see it expired November of 2020. Here's the truck. Here's the camper that's in the back of the house. Here's the trailer that's got the California plates on it, as you can see, California plates on there. Here's the water and sewer and electrical lines running through the grass, and I'll show you where they hook up. They go along with this picture here. This shows the connection.
So they just got a garden hose hooked up to that.
And here is the, and here's a clear picture showing where the
Pass
electric,
those to Tom too. Yep. So this is the electric cable going into the RV,
that's correct.
and this is the electric cable leading from the house?
That's correct. I wanted to show a complete picture that you guys would see where it was connected. Mr. Pelkey and Mr. Arnold witnessed the same, as these pictures indicate.
North Carolina.
We cannot allow this to take place in our village.
Thoughts, Mr. Mayor?
Here, Tom. Mr. Labonte actually contacted me at the end of, not last week, the week before, I think, and told me a little bit about this and asked me if I had heard from Mr. Cooper regarding this situation. And I had told him at that point I had not. Apparently, I think an attorney named, I think Greg Leduc may have sent this letter. I don't know if he sent it to John.
I didn't want to mention any names on camera.
No, it's okay, but I don't know, that's just what I've heard, but I have not seen anything. So I would like to get a copy of that letter. I didn't get a chance to talk to John, because last week I was in a trial in Essex County for the whole week, so I wasn't really available. But I'd like to get a copy of that letter.
Mr. Mayor, this letter should have been given to the village attorney a week ago.
I never got the letter to give it to the village attorney, so I haven't seen the letter either.
Excuse me?
I haven't seen the letter either.
Well, that's what the code officer should have been turning over to the village attorney and to the mayor or the administrator to get the ball rolling and not wait a month.
Yeah. I mean, I had not heard anything, about this until John and Mr. Labonte have called me about it, but again, I have not seen anything.
Because now we're going to be waiting for Mr. Manay to do his job and send a letter, talk to Mr. Cooper, we review the letter, and by the time this goes, we're going to be another month, Mr. Mayor. And how would you like a trailer next to your property, or your property, Mr.? Nobody would. This is ridiculous.
This is the first day I've heard of this, so.
So if in fact there has been a letter generated,
Mhm.
John, please send it to me, because I need to look at that
Yeah,
and see what
forward it tomorrow morning.
Mr. Leduc says.
Mr. Cooper is identified by this village, just like any other elected official or appointed official. Unless he does something outrageous, he is covered for anything that this attorney may try to intimidate him with. Mr. Renee can verify that.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, unfortunately, any correspondence, really, John gets something, or Mr. Cooper gets something from an attorney, he probably should send it to me anyway, so I can look at it and see what it says, and make me aware of a situation. But again, until Mr. Labonte had contacted me, I hadn't heard anything about this situation.
I also heard from another neighbor that's in that area, and I don't want to really say his name, but he did show me the letter, and he was pretty shook up about it, because his name is named in it, and he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And he had concerns,
Yeah,
and he wants it addressed.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I'm happy to. I, again, have not seen anything about it as of right now.
Cooper, when did you get the letter?
I got it, I went up and I spoke to the person we're discussing, and it was about 2 weeks later, I think I got a letter stating that I was a rude, obnoxious person, da-da-da-da. I'll show the letter. The only thing is, I understand what everybody's saying here, but there's no law against plugging your trailer into your house. There's law against running water out to your trailer. The thing is with John, is the fact that he says there's people living here. I have drove by that place every other morning. For a long time, I never see anybody come in and out of there. As far as the place being out of date, that's a civil thing on both sides, the pickup truck and the trailer. I only deal with the code here. The code says you can't live in it. I've yet to see, you're saying, Johnny says that there's the people coming in and out of there. But you can live in one at any time for 2 weeks. That's what Article does, that he does 10, he says. You know, it's a tough call here, but he's a next door neighbor. When he first sent the complaint to me, he didn't show me any pictures or anything, but I wrote it up as per se, and I took it down and I gave it to her. I gave her a copy of the code stating how long the trailer could be there. I gave her a copy of the code about the dog that had to be tied up and not on John's lawn, making a mess.
The only thing I want to say is, this is June 27th. I think when I took Mr. Pelkey on and Mr. Arnold, both, this was probably 10 days ago, I would say.
Yeah.
At that time, the electrical was hooked up, and it's been hooked up continuously since they moved there, June 27th. So I have nothing to convince anybody of. They can see it. Mr. Cooper or anybody can walk the line, my property, I give permission. I, as a property owner, should not have to file a complaint. That's what you people are elected for, and that's what Mr. Cooper has been appointed for, not a property owner like myself. I don't have to take pictures. I don't have to file a complaint. Mr. Cooper does, along with Mr. Renee, and backed up by the board. How long? That's not a very complicated thing to do. Not a very complicated thing to do at all, Mr. Mayor.
And John, just to clarify, okay, you said you haven't seen anybody living there.
No,
but
I haven't.
When you went and visited,
Well, I wrote
and then
that.
this woman sent you a letter,
Yes, but the thing is, like I'm saying,
it's
If you
from
have
an
your- if you have
attorney,
your- if
you
you
knew
have-
she had to be doing wrong if she sent you.
Well, not necessarily true, but at least he should have sent me a copy of that letter to alert me to the fact that there was something apparently going on at this property,
Yeah,
which again, I just hadn't heard anything about.
right.
well, when I spoke to her, she stated the dog was never on John's property. When I talked to
Well, I'm
John,
not worried about a dog. I'm worried about a trailer. This trailer is gonna be there, and the longer it stays there, they weren't smart enough to put any boards underneath the trailers, the tires of this trailer. It's sinking in very fast. So the only way they can pull that trailer in is either to go on my property or my neighbor's property. And if they do that, they're gonna create ruts. And that's not my problem or expense to bear. And the longer this goes and it's ignored, the worse it's gonna get. And that's why I'm emphasizing, this has to be cleared up very quickly. Excuse me.
John, what's the address of the property where this trailer is? You're 10, right?
I'm 10, I think that's 8.
Yeah, it's eight.
8 Phillips?
8.
But you can't tell somebody they can't store their trailer behind their house.
And you can tell them when they got electric wire and water hooked up to it. And the property owner doesn't own the trailer, Mr. Cooper.
Are they on the,
John, how did they get the camper in there?
whose property
Did it
are
go
they
over
on?
yours?
They cut right across Mr. Legnar's property. And if Mr. Legnar was here, he could verify that. And with the 5-ton trailer, I would estimate, he put potholes and he dug it in, Mr. Legnar had to go in with a tamper and try to fix some of this property. And there's no way he can get out without going through my property or Mr. Legnar's property. It's ridiculous.
Is the trailer sitting on, do they own the property that they're on?
Yes, they do. It's about 15 feet from my property line.
I mean, we don't know who owns the trailer, I guess, per se, correct?
All I know, no, I don't.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, we don't know.
All I know is they took the truck out the other night, and the New York State Police stopped them right in front of my house on 10 Phillips Avenue, and I'm sure he issued them a number of citations for having uninsured, uninspected, and everything else on that truck, because it's 8 months expired on those tags.
So what I would request at least be done is that Mr. Cooper sent me a copy of this letter, so I can see it. Certainly contact me so we can discuss where this stands. I'm more than happy to respond to this attorney regarding whatever he has said in this letter. And you know, take the next step or do whatever we need to do. If it's in violation, it's in violation. We need to file a violation and go from there. Of course.
Should we have Mr. Cooper write up a violation and deliver?
Yeah, so you know,
I mean, if it's been over a month, it's.
Well, I certainly want to get the letter. I want to look at this 83-1 that Mr. Labonte mentioned, and I don't doubt Mr. Labonte tells me that it's a violation. But I need to look at that. I've seen the pictures now at least too, so I know kind of what it looks like. And I can certainly contact Mr. Labonte if I want to get copies of those pictures to attach to whatever complaint we file.
You can keep those copies, Mr. Murnane.
I believe I gave them back to you. Oh, did I? I think I did. I put them over in your book. Oh, thank you, sir. You're welcome. But yeah, I mean, again, I just need to look at what the statute says, what the regulations say, but certainly have copies of pictures. And we just need to confirm what's going on there, and if they're in violation, we file it as a violation, we go from there. But I'm more than happy to respond to the letter, I just need to see it.
You just need to get the letter to respond to it.
Yeah.
And that's the next step we have to take for.
So,
And if they're in violation, then we proceed.
if John gets Susan the letter in the morning, can she scan it to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
John, you'll get that to,
I'll just fax it to Tom in the morning.
okay, that's fine.
Matter of fact, I can go home and get a copy of the letter, bring it back to you in about 5 minutes, if that'll help speed up the situation.
Sure.
Okay. That's all I have to say. I appreciate your time. I'll be back with the letter.
Thank you, John.
sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Any other? Yeah.
While we're on the subject of code violations, I'd like to know what's going on with 35 Chapman Street. Nobody's been over there, nothing's been done. The place is a mess, everything's opened up, there's animals moving in. I'm just sick of this mess that's next door to me.
Okay, so
That's that burned house, correct?
Yeah, right. So we discussed that the last last meeting, and I did send a follow-up letter to the owner of the property saying something obviously needed to be done. I've gotten no response, I haven't heard anything. So at this point in time, again, maybe that's something I need to sit down with John, file a notice of violation, and we proceed.
I actually do have something here dated July 22nd. It's an email, John. Hi, John. Per our conversation, I have submitted all the documentation to the insurance company along with proof of loss claim form. They have sent me back an acknowledgement of receipt of everything, and it just says they are processing and reviewing the claim. As soon as I hear more, I will update you all right away. They have not yet approved the claim or sent any payment authorization for demolition.
How long is this gonna go on? You know,
We're stuck
Yeah, we're-
right on the insurance company.
we're paying taxes to this village, and you know, you've gotta do something for your money. I know we're paying more to Champlain than we are to Rouses Point, and they do absolutely nothing.
Now, again,
And nobody's told me why.
I think at this point in time, you know, because, again, we don't really know what's going on here. I guess, he's kind of kicking the can down the road here, it sounds like. I think we file a violation against him and at least try to push him along that way. I mean, we have given him more than a fair opportunity to do something here. And this is the way that, I haven't been contacted by anybody to talk about it, so this is the first,
So is this a violation of, like, almost like an appearance ticket to appear in front of a judge?
Yep.
Definitely a good start.
Yeah, if nothing else, it kind of pushes it along and we see what's going on.
You know, the category of this should be an unsafe building.
Yeah.
It's unsafe. There's,
It is.
everything's opened up. The windows are all open.
I will,
It's
yes.
a mess over there.
Yes, I think that's.
They removed the cars. They didn't remove any of the trash that's around the house.
I mean, that's an initial, that's what we have to do, I think, at this point. And the unsafe building provision in our local law, we've been down that road before, at least some of us have. And that's a little trickier, we have to get an engineer involved, go look at the building, give us a report saying it's unsafe, and do all that. So that's a little, it's gonna take a little more time. I think is looking at the local law, looking at the law, see what we can do as far as a violation, try to push it along that way might be the way to go, and that may, it certainly get his attention and say, okay, maybe I need to, maybe be a little more aggressive to try to get this thing resolved. And if need be, we need to go the unsafe building route, we'll do that, but that would require us to ask our engineer to get involved, give us a report regarding the building.
We do both. Do the violation first, just to get them both going.
Yeah, we certainly can.
Because we would have to issue a violation before we can get the engineer involved, right?
Again, I didn't bring my code book with me, I should have, but I just need to look at that again, because I know we've done it a few times here in the village for unsafe buildings. We've done it on Route 9 a couple times. We did it, actually we did it with the Holland, I think, at one point as well. We've done it on, I think, at least one or two other buildings on some other roads that were, there was a fire damaged building, and we did that too. It's a process.
Yeah, but
Okay.
if
But if that's,
well, now we're not going through this again in like a month or two.
yeah, you know, if the board wants to give the direction to have our engineer, the village engineer, and we still use Doug, but I'm not sure who we use. I don't know. Okay.
We would have to see one.
Yeah, okay.
But I think the violation, writing up as many violations as you can and get them in front of the judge would probably,
It pushes it.
Yes.
especially if he goes in front of Judge LaBounty.
Yes. But yeah, you know, we've been, I think, more than patient with this gentleman, and,
Oh, definitely.
and we're not really, I mean, I've never been contacted by anybody, and I've sent at least, I think, 2 letters, so.
Yeah.
So now, will you issue it, or will John issue it?
John will, but I will meet with John to get that done.
Okay.
So John, we need to talk this week sometime to get together and work that out.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're not
There's
giving.
been nobody over there. I know we said last time that we're checking for asbestos, but nobody's been over there.
Have you seen anybody?
Nobody's been in that yard at all.
Yeah.
Nobody's picked anything up.
No, I know, yeah, I've been driving by.
Mowed the lawn once this year.
I think one of the neighbors mowed the lawn, to be honest with you.
What's that?
I think one of our neighbors mowed the lawn over there. The only thing is the junk, he's got one unregistered car in the yard, which is illegal. The junk on the ground over there, he claims, and I explained that to the mayor one time, he claims that's part of the insurance claim, so nobody can touch it. You know, we're waiting to hear from him. Jed's got a copy of the letter. I sent one to some of the people I had email addresses for, but I'd like to get rid of the darn thing too, but he's waiting.
Well, it's been there for months now.
I know,
and,
but you know, it's just like,
You know,
you know, it's just
animals are moving in.
Oh, I know, I go by
Yeah.
it every day, I walk around that thing every day up there, it's a eyesore, it's a pain in the ass, it stinks, and the whole
And
nine
property
yards.
values are going down.
They take a picture
Well,
of
you
it.
know, if he gets the money, he's supposed to get the money to do the demo on it and things, as his last letter stated. As soon as we get something on that, we'll get it down. Bring it into court at this point in time till it gets settled. You know, the village can't afford to take that thing down because the county doesn't do that for us anymore.
I think they should make sure it does come down soon.
Oh, it's gotta come down, and the way I stated it to his insurance company is that the site has to be cleaned up and has to be rebuildable. In other words, you can't fill a hole up with the bricks and stuff that are on, because it'll never be rebuildable. So what we gotta do is make sure everything leaves when it leaves.
Right.
So that way it'll make a nice building lot in the village. But apparently these things, I didn't think it would take this long. I don't think anybody did. But, you know,
You gotta live next to it.
Oh, I know,
that's-
I could tell you, I drive by there every day, take pictures of it, but you know, it's just, if, we can, he's in a bind too, because he's not getting anything either, so. We can
Well,
take it,
then he should be
I know we
filing a
can take him to
lawsuit
court,
against
but I don't know if that's gonna do
He's still
anything.
responsible for his property,
Yes, he is.
bottom line.
And Tom, you were saying something?
I was gonna say, I mean, even to use the excuse that he's waiting for his insurance company, I mean, the bottom line is, he can still be cleaning up his property. I mean, the insurance company is taking pictures of the property, I'm assuming they've been there, sounds like they've been there. They know what the property looks like, you know, so, yeah, whether he incurs the cost, he gets reimbursed, whatever the case may be, something has to happen to get it cleaned up.
The insurance company's taking pictures of the interior, the exterior. They've said they have asbestos people up there, because that's this abatement's gonna be an expensive part of that job, because it's an older building. All these claims were turned into the insurance company.
Yeah.
That's where we're all sitting. I know we're all upset about it, but I can't see where it can go too far. We can send him, we can get him into court, probably. I'll tell you what happens when you go to court, they're gonna find him $100. I don't know if that means.
But whatever we can do to make him uncomfortable, or at least try to spur some action on it, I guess we need
We
to.
gotta push him one way or the other.
Yeah.
Or if you just give us information to contact the insurance company.
Yeah, I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll do anything you gentlemen ask me to do. If you want me to pursue this big time and chase after him, have Tom, he's already sent him a letter, send him some more, maybe we can send him a court date if you guys are happy with that.
Write him up.
Yeah. I think
You
he
know
lives
how
in
many
Tennessee.
violations are against them.
Yeah, I mean,
Write as many as you can.
Right, I have to go through the code book and look at it, see what we can justify for violations, but we can.
All we gotta do is declare it an unsafe building, which of course it is, and we're all aware of that.
Do you think that'd speed up the insurance company any?
Well, we can't, I don't know, it's
It's, well, listen, it's certainly not gonna hurt anything, because it just means that we're paying attention and we're focused on it, and we want some action to be taken, and they need to do something.
Well,
It starts
And
costing
we're
somebody,
listening- we're
it starts
listening to
costing
him.
somebody money, even if it's a couple $100, it's
Right.
costing somebody some money. And so something has to happen.
and we really haven't had any conversation or with him or whatever, so we don't know if he's already been paid and just not taking it down.
Right, we need to find out.
So,
I think if
yeah.
we do that, you know, whether that spurs some conversation with his insurance company, so they contact us, then we can really get some kind of timeline, or at least we figure out what is going on, then we can at least, you know, proceed, because we know, we'll have some facts about what's happening.
But Tom, you did send him a letter, right?
They did?
Has he responded to any correspondence from you?
No.
No? That's not. On his part?
I just don't wanna see this go through a winter.
No way.
No.
With animals living in there and everything else, it's gonna be people getting into there, it's all open.
Yeah.
There's a fence around it, that isn't gonna stop anything, it doesn't stop the animals, it doesn't stop anything.
No. Understood.
Any other comments from the public? Yes?
If you don't mind, I won't stand, my knees bother me, won't come do, okay? With trailers, there's a specific in the zoning law, where a trailer has to be in that area and no other place in Rouses Point. I think Mr. Manane knows that, I think John knows that, he should know that, and I think, who is in charge of the code enforcement officer?
That would be,
I am,
You are?
but a
Okay.
camp trailer is not, it's got, in order to be against the law, it would have to be over 30-something feet, and it would have to be a livable trailer, but this is not.
What are you saying?
It has to be so long, this is a camp trailer. We're
Don't make
discussing.
it there, that's, camp trailer has to go in a camping area.
Yeah,
It cannot go in the village.
I got mine in my house for 20 years.
Well, you know, but don't make any difference, been there 20 years or not, it's still not right, and it's wrong. And don't tell me I was code enforcement officer for over 3 years.
Storing is one thing, you know, living is
Yeah,
another.
storing is one thing, living in it's another.
I don't-
I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people store their
Yeah.
I've got
campers
mine.
on their property, and me, probably
I
nobody.
know my
has-
son does.
Yeah,
He has
nobody
power
probably-
to it and stuff like that.
And nobody has a real objection living in it.
Ben, does your
Creates
son
another
have
problem.
electric power to your camp trailer out in your yard?
Yeah.
Yes,
Does he have a hose hook to it?
No.
Well, most of them do, because I did in my yard, and I have my motor home there,
Yeah.
but.
No.
And that's up to
So the
Mr.
question is, if someone's living in that, that's a big problem.
Yeah, we just need to get some further evidence on that.
Trailers are
At least
trailers.
I'm gonna respond to the attorney's letter and let me take a look at it.
It's a violation, I don't care how you look at it. Am I right or wrong, Mr. Renee?
Well, you're talking about like a travel trailer, say for example, you put a travel trailer on a lot and live there, that's not gonna be allowed use. If this, I'm assuming this person is saying, well, I'm just storing, or whatever the case may be. I'm just assuming that, because again, I haven't seen anything,
That's exactly what I was told.
which potentially is okay. Like you say, Benny, your son has his there, and whatever, that's okay. If someone's living there, that's another issue. So it may come down to a point where we may need to get a little more evidence about that, but if someone is living there as a violation, then.
And that's the line that has to be crossed if they're living there.
I mean, storing it there, again, I have to look at the code, but I'm assuming there's no violation if you want to store your camper on your property, right? Your camper, yeah.
You can store a trailer. You always could store a trailer on the property if it's back away from the front of the house. Of course, but storing it is one thing, living in it is another thing.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's what we're saying. We gotta get evidence that someone's living
That's
there.
right, that's right.
Well, it sounds like John may have that, but I can talk to John too about getting some additional pictures.
And let me ask you another thing. You're in charge of the code enforcement officer, right? You come to these meetings, you never hear anybody ask questions. The only one that answers decent questions is Brian. All the rest of you three fellas, you don't come out, you don't tell anything, you don't say anything. There's nothing covered, nothing, no. Mr. So-and-so, no. Mr. So-and-so, no. Mr. So-and-so, no. Brian? Why is he the only one that has a whole bunch of papers all in front of him and he goes through it? There's something wrong there.
Well, I'll have to correct you, Mr. Rasco. I do speak at the meetings.
Well, you don't do much speaking, I'll tell you that. And none,
Can we
the other
not-
two
can
don't
we-
either.
I'm gonna draw the line here,
Yeah.
conveniently as
Yeah.
good sir's
May I
back.
interrupt for a minute? I'll give everybody a copy of this letter.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Unless-
If we even have a designated area in the village, you want them to look at my end. You know, up below us, that's where the trailer is. See, they hear like how are you?
And I take exception to the second paragraph where it says, by contrast with one of my client's yard has nothing hooked up at all. I think Mr. Arnold, Mr. Pelkey witnessed it, as well as my pictures clearly demonstrate that, as well as Mr. Cooper should have saw that, as well as what I'm telling you here tonight.
Mistake without prejudice at the top of the letter?
What?
Without prejudice at the top?
Who knows? I mean, listen, he sent a letter to Mr. Cooper, essentially saying a letter just saying, "Make stop bothering my clients," so really good at that. But again, you know, if there's validity to it, then whatever, we'll deal with it. That's what matters. So John, and I believe everything you're saying, John. If you can get some pictures of people there at night or in the morning, leave coming.
Well,
Or
the unfortunate thing about that, guess what they do? When people are trying to be deceptive, and you and I have been in the business long enough, what do? They go out when it's dark, and they go in when it's dark, and that's what's happening. Mr. Cooper would have to go there around 9 o'clock at night, somewhere between 8:30 and 9:30 every night. There's all milling around. Everybody's moving around, getting their groceries, changing their clothes, doing whatever they do. But and then the air conditioning's on. If it's unoccupied, Mr. Bernard, you own one, I've owned one, I don't know who else owns one. What do you put an air conditioner on in an empty trailer for? Does that make sense to you?
Do you see lights on in there at night or no?
Well, they got what I didn't think there was, so I walked my property line. They got the very dark tinted windows. You have to look right where the side windows meet, and you can see a flash of light every once in a while. But it's so dark tinted, you couldn't even put them in your vehicle because they'd be illegal. So I mean, it's well planned and it's well thought out from that standpoint.
Okay, so we just, probably just need to get some additional evidence regarding what's going on there. But I'm certainly gonna respond to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time again.
John,
Thanks for
For going out and getting this.
come here, I want to talk to you.
I'd like to carry on with the meeting, so if you two want to have a side conversation, can you do it in the hallway?
You just ask if anybody else, does anybody else have any?
Does anybody else have any comments?
That is why they got a section.
I asked a question about 3 meetings ago about why we pay so much taxes to Champlain, when actually they provide no services to Rouses Point. Has anybody had any time to think about that?
It is the way New York State is organized, because you've got the state, the county, the town, and the village.
I know.
Because we did not go to be a city, we are a village in the town of Champlain. As such, we have to pay both town and village taxes. That's the way the government.
But we
of New
pay
York
more
State is organized.
to Champlain than we do to Rouses Point, and you provide all the services.
Well, we probably pay a little bit more when you count in all the different utilities that you pay for and everything else.
I think if you check on it, I think Champlain gets about over 50% of their income from taxes, from like Moore's, Rouses Point,
You're visiting,
any villages that are attached to Champlain.
can't live in it,
So,
you can park in it.
Which
and,
makes sense,
and
because
they
the
provide
villages
no
are.
services.
It goes on the assessed value of your home, unfortunately. So if we have nicer homes, of course we pay more taxes.
The village also has more homes than,
Yeah.
like,
In those taxes, your county tax comes out of there, your town tax, out of your Champlain tax, your town tax, I think there's a portion of that goes to the county, is that correct, Arson?
The town tax, all the towns.
Well, the town and county taxes
Are combined.
are re-levied, or they're collected in January.
Right, they're
But
combined,
listed-
right?
They're listed separately in the tax bill.
Right, but it's all in one tax bill, the town of Champlain, we're paying county tax on there also.
Right, there's a town tax, there's a a county tax.
Right.
And there may be other additional taxes on that,
You got, like,
depending on where the property is
You got the
located.
landfill closing tax in there, there's all different line items that adds up to what they charge us for the town of Champlain.
You got fire tax in there.
Because we're within the town of Champlain, we're obligated to pay that tax. And like you say, what do we
We
get
get
for
nothing
it?
for it.
Yeah, you're not.
That's not fair. I don't like paying for something I don't get.
Getting around it, other
Yeah, there's
than,
no way of getting around it.
as we talked about before, like years ago, about maybe trying to become a city, but that's a whole other ballgame, so. So yeah, there's, unfortunately, I understand what this gentleman is saying, but there's really no way around doing it, unfortunately.
So we pay for nothing.
Well, we do pay for them to plow the town roads, which, I know I use the town roads.
Yeah, I use Rouses Point roads too,
Yeah, I use
and
both.
so does Champlain. Who takes care of them?
The town roads are taken care of by the town. The village of Champlain takes care of the village of Champlain roads. The
And the
village of
county.
Rouses Point takes care of the village of Rouses Point roads.
So,
and you have the county.
And you have the county roads.
yeah,
which
we
are
use
taken
all
care
the
of by county.
roads. That has nothing to do with our home taxes.
The general fund is used to do public works. So if we use the town roads, that's what your town taxes are going towards.
Everybody uses them. They don't get taxed on
I
it.
mean, unfortunately, the bottom line is, as Brian mentioned, the village of Rouses Point is in the town of Champlain, and because we're in the town of Champlain, we are gonna be assessed town taxes for being there. And you have a good argument, but the bottom line is we are gonna be assessed for that, there's not much.
So no matter what I say, we pay taxes for nothing.
It's the way New York State is
Yeah.
organized.
I was gonna say, you gotta go.
You're probably not very wrong, but that's unfortunately how much we can do about that.
I think the board could do something about it if they wanted to, but they don't want to look into it.
Make Rouse's Point a city, which was attempted before.
Right. That's really your,
That's the only
your
option.
recourse to really try to.
We have looked into it before,
Right.
to becoming a city, and that's the only way to get out of paying town taxes.
And as I recall, I mean, first of all, it's not easy, number one.
No.
Number two, I think the state legislature has to, pass, a law to make us a city, which as I recall.
It was like the 50s the last time.
It's been a long time since the city was formed in the state, and quite honestly, I think what we learned was it's extremely unlikely that the state legislature would ever do that.
Then you'd have to have a paid fire department.
Yeah, it requires a whole other ballgame, which would make your taxes go up anyways to offset whatever we lost probably for the town. So, yeah, I mean.
There is also, one of the representatives on the town board is also a Village of Rouse's Point resident too. So we do have representation, so if you have questions about where the money's going, you can ask the town board.
Can't the board here ask? Well, what our money for Rouse's Point goes towards?
We can.
They
Do you
have a
have any
budget,
specific questions?
they have a budget, just like what our budget is here. It's a line item budget, and it pretty much spelled out in there what funds go where. Like they have some money for legal services, they have some money for the assessor, we share the assessor, so we have to pay for his salary. All that comes out of the town's tax.
And we share dog patrol off of the dog.
I think it's nowhere near what we're paying in taxes, so.
But the bottom line, say for example, if somehow the village was made a city, so you may be able to avoid your town taxes, but at the same time, at that point, as we talked about, the village would be required to retain a lot more services and provide a lot more services to the residents, which means your village taxes would go up quite a bit more than what they are now. So the difference probably would be none, and or it could actually be higher because of what the village could have to be required to tax the residents of the village to offset what they have to provide.
Like what?
And I believe, to try to answer one of your questions, you said we pay like 50% of the taxes. We probably have 50% of the homes in Rouse's Point in the town of Champlain. You know, if we have 1,200 homes, there's probably only 1,200 homes outside in the whole town of Champlain. So it's by occupancy, basically, you know, like I said, it's assessed value, but we have more homes here per capita than basically probably the whole town of Champlain. So they're gonna tax you as you're in the town of Champlain, and, you know, we are. There is no good explanation.
No, there isn't.
Yeah,
There isn't.
That's the way
For
the
that
state's
question.
think it's
set up.
fair.
That's the way the state's set
But
up.
I think it'd be almost, it's literally almost impossible to change.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we tried 25 years ago.
Yeah, we didn't, wasn't there a movement to make Rouse's Point a city in the 90s?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, George Rivers was mayor at the time.
yeah, I was on the board.
Rivers tried that.
Looked into it.
I was on the board.
Rivers tried that.
Yeah.
The only
George
thing that we
Rivers
can
was the
do
mayor.
as elected officials for the village of Rouses Point and the town of Champlain, and even the county, is to make sure our budgets are streamlined where it helps the residents rather than hurts them. And that's my goal, and I'm sure it's the goal of this board, is we try to watch our budget, make sure we don't spend our money foolishly, to keep your taxes as low as we can. And I'm hoping that the town, I'm
That's the way-
sure that the town of Champlain is doing the same.
Is that so we can give more to Champlain, or?
No, it's just,
You know, what
no,
do they do for?
everybody needs to watch their spending, and they need to stay within budget. That's all we can do. I mean, if there was something we could do, wave a magic wand and do away with it, we would. But unfortunately, our hands are tied, and there's nobody in these positions that could change that.
We're all village residents.
Yeah.
If we could do away with taxes, We would too.
I'm not
You know,
happy
I mean,
with
if
what
we could
I
change
I don't
it.
mind paying taxes for something I get.
Right. We all,
And, you know, the village of Rouses Point supplies all that. I don't have any problem with that, but to pay for something I don't get is something else.
just like our school tax, do you have any children in school?
No?
So you still have to pay school tax. But, you know, as we do get older, I guess you do get a break on your school tax.
We have STAR.
Yeah.
As you get older, you can apply for Senior STAR, which is a
Senior
little bit-
star,
little bit more.
that helps, but
Right.
still, I mean, we pay a lot of school tax. School tax is one of the highest taxes in our area.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, if you don't have kids, or for example, you send your kids to a Catholic school.
Yes, then you gotta pay,
That's
the
expensive.
And you pay tuition, and you pay school tax.
Yeah, that's expensive.
So it's just a vicious cycle, Calvin, that unfortunately, if there was something that we could do about it, I'm telling you, we'd be on it.
And like I said, we tried, 25 years ago. And
Maybe it's time to try again.
it was,
Try something
it was
anyway.
shot down so hard.
Yeah, it's extremely unlikely, again, the state legislature would ever pass
You gotta get the blessing.
legislation authorizing the village to become a city.
Yeah.
They don't want that to happen.
No.
No, they don't.
No, because-
They're not interested in creating.
Because
more cities.
The big thing with that is if they create a city, they have to give us more tax money also.
I don't like paying for stuff I don't get.
No, they're not gonna do that.
Okay.
Any other public comments?
Let me answer your question.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it isn't.
It's a tough one, yes.
Way New York State's organized. I'd like to thank you all for being such a lively public session today. Thank you. I was trying to figure out the words and how I wanted to word it, but thank you all for contributing today. I'd like to see this every day. If we had more people come in and talk like this would be great. Okay, minutes of the previous meeting.
I make a motion that we accept it as read, or printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bills. Any questions about the bills today?
I got one question. What's this, page 3, RP, com survey and grant rating for $2,600?
That's the comprehensive plan.
Yep. That was the cost of the comprehensive plan for, is there anything else that we're doing with the comprehensive plan this year, or is that gonna be waiting until next year?
We've submitted the grant, and I think we're done until at least towards the end of the year, when we find out if we get the grant, then we'll plan next steps.
Okay.
Thank you.
How much have we spent to date on that account?
I don't know.
There was like $10,000 in that
Yeah,
account.
there's 10,000.
Just wanna make sure we don't
We have
exceed
not
that.
gone near 10,000. I think we're probably, where are we, Ursa?
I don't know, I can check.
I don't know, we'd have to check. I don't wanna guess, but we're not over.
The only other thing I have is, I'd like an update on the Barton and Judas bill. There's another bill here for $19,635 on page 2 for the water treatment improvements. I'd like to see what the scope of the project, what they're billing us for, where we're at on our project. It seems like we're getting a bill every month here for $19,000 or $23,000. I'd just like to know where the money is going.
We can get that, basically.
Just a breakdown of
Yeah.
where they're at,
Done.
what they've done.
Yeah, we'll give you a copy.
Is there any way to go like this? We don't keep asking for it every meeting?
Yeah, can we get
Yep.
recurring copies of these
Yep.
in our mailbox?
At least it'll keep us up to date when somebody asks why you're spending so much money on a project. We can say, yep, we're at this point, or this is what they're doing. I'm just kind of concerned, I know it's grant money, but it's still our money.
Right.
It's still the taxpayers' money. I'm concerned where we're headed.
And we can do that.
Other than that, I make a motion to pay the bill.
We have one addition this evening.
Oh, yeah.
It's Municipal Electric Utilities Association of New York State. It's the second installment of our 2021 membership dues. It's $4,850.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills as amended.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Correspondence?
We received a letter from the fire department. Dear Mayor and trustees, we wish to inform you of a new member who has been approved for our company for a probationary period of 6 months, Sean Snide. Please act on this member, and we thank you for your time in this matter.
I make a motion, we accept the new member for the fire department?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, boy. I got a lot today. Okay, so we'll start with resolution 2021-20. I'm trying to find my copy of. I'll get yours. This is the authorization of the submittal of an application for funding to the New York State Department of State's Local Waterfront Revitalization Program and the Smart Growth Comprehensive Planning Grant Program for Planning and Development Grant, acknowledging that there's sufficient match funds and authorizing the mayor to sign and submit all required documentations for the application and grant agreement documents if awarded. This is for the comprehensive plan for next year's budget. We brought it up last time. Arsen, I spoke with you about it when you got back from vacation. And it's 8 to 12. Do you think 8 to 12,000? Do you think we're good for next year? Budgeting it in next year?
Yeah, that's up to the board, yeah.
Is it common to spend money I mean, to commit funds for projects that this board might not even be here next year?
Well, the problem with some of these grants are that it's more than a one-year cycle, so, I mean, they have done that in the past.
That was the library grant for the front steps in the library, and that started under Dan Letourneau.
So on this comprehensive plan, has anyone seen this plan yet?
We only did the survey.
No, the grant is to get a comprehensive plan in place. First of all, we're required to have one. The state of New York requires one on file, registered, and we don't have one. So if we get the grant, we'll only end up paying 8 to 12,000. If we don't get the grant, it's gonna cost us a whole lot more. So either way you look at it, we need a comprehensive plan. But what you have to do to get a legal comprehensive plan, we would have to have at least 2 meetings with the whole village, open meetings. There would be a meeting with the town of Champlain and with the county. There would be additional surveys and taking the data from the survey and going through that with the residents of the village. So basically it is to plot at least your next 5 years of where does the village want to go? Where do the residents in the village want to see the board of the village putting your efforts in development, in roads, in parks, in what we do to attract business?
Yeah, it's also important if you know, the village is interested in like trying to rezone properties. And I don't know, I was coming under the assumption there may have been a comprehensive plan previously.
Mhm.
You know, Susan says there may not be one, because usually when you develop like zoning laws, there's a comprehensive plan usually done to begin with to say, okay, the town fathers at that point kind of felt, okay, this area should be residential, maybe this area more commercial, maybe this area, you know, maybe a mix, maybe, you know, and obviously you look at the main corridors, whether it's Lake Street, you know, Route 11, Route 9, you know, where you think maybe development might be. Now, over a period of time, obviously things change. For example, Town of Peru just did a revised comprehensive plan, probably in the last 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 years. Town of Plattsburgh did a new comprehensive plan, because, again, if you're gonna base changes in your locale, whether it's in town, village, city, whatever, you need to have some kind of reasoning behind it and some kind of basis for it. And that's why you really need to have some kind of comprehensive plan in place, say, well, yeah, this is why we did this. In case down the road, say there's ever some kind of challenge to, say, a zoning plan or some kind of application, where an applicant could say, well, you know, the village never did a comprehensive plan, or just did this without a comprehensive plan, so it was kind of spot zoning, or whatever the case may be, as you heard that terminology. So it is something that should be visited from time to time. Actually, Town of Scholar Falls right now is looking into doing the same thing we're talking about doing.
Because we did have one, I thought it was, like, it hasn't been upgraded since
It
the
hasn't been
90s.
updated probably forever. And that's not unusual, because pretty much the case in a lot of towns, villages. But it is something that's good to revisit periodically, and I'm not saying every 10 years, and
Right.
maybe
That's
every
my
20
question.
years or so.
That's my question, how often do you do these?
It,
10, 20
I,
years?
yeah, I'd say that probably, Brian. I mean, a lot of it depends, as things develop, you'll see certain areas changing.
Okay.
You know, whether change, the areas that you thought would be, okay, this is gonna be residential, well, guess what, now it's more commercial. So if you see instances where certain areas, you're getting a lot of use variances or whatever on certain streets, whatever, that's kind of an indication, okay, this area is kind of changing, and maybe we should revisit that. So, I don't know if there's any per se rule of thumb, Brian, to answer your question, you know, the 10 years, the 20 years. 20 years certainly makes sense, because a lot of things can change in 20 years. 10 years, maybe not, but, you know, 20 years is probably certainly reasonable.
I don't have a problem with it as long as it's a fixed cost. I mean, you know, I don't wanna see something come across the desk next year of $30,000 RPO.
Right.
When we sat here and did a resolution for between 8 to 12,000, that's quite a range, you know? Is it gonna be 8 or is it gonna be 12?
Yeah, and
I just don't wanna see it go to 30.
Right.
No,
And-
that is
and it's-
because
it is hard to
this
tell
would-
though, I mean, you know, to say you can pin somebody down for an exact cost, because certain things change, related costs may change, you know, and I understand what you're saying, and you're not wrong.
No,
But I can understand there may be some room for some flexibility. Is 4,000 too much flexibility? I don't know, but there probably would have to be room for at least a couple $1,000s worth of flexibility.
Susan?
It's because we're applying to two different places. One place has a 10% match, one place has a 15% match.
Okay.
So it's gonna be, you know, if we get 100% of it from the 10% match people, then it's gonna be 8,000. If we have to go to the other place, which requires a 15% match, then it'll be 12,000. That's why there's a range. And if we get some from each, it'll be somewhere in the middle.
Do you see anything left over from this year's money of the 10,000 for the comprehensive plan to roll over into next year?
You know, I'm not sure about that because we've got the survey done. And we did submit the grant. We got the grant written and submitted. But then there's gonna be analysis on the survey to come up with what will be the first kickoff meeting. So I don't know if there'd be anything left or if we'd go right into the grant next year.
I mean,
I guess what my biggest problem with this is it gives you the percentages, it doesn't give you the amounts. So we would have to go back to the minutes to make sure the amounts stay where they're supposed to be.
suffice to say, if you did have a comprehensive plan and it's 20 years or plus older, does it make sense to redo it? The answer is yes. If in fact you do not have a comprehensive plan and it makes sense to do it, the answer is absolutely. So I understand the cost component. Is it a good idea to have it? Without question.
Yeah, it's just the cost.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So when we do this resolution, is it binding on the amount that we say in this meeting, between 10 and 12,000, or is it gonna be 15% of the cost? Legally?
If you're limiting it to a dollar amount, in order to increase that, it'd have to come back to you to increase it, I would say.
Yeah, because this says up to 15% of total project cost. So we wouldn't be able to go over that.
Right, but we don't know what the project cost is gonna be.
Yeah, not yet.
Oh, it's $80,000. That's what
Is
we're
that-
submitting
is
as
that
a
the
grant.
fixed cost?
$80,000. And it's not like a project where we'll be buying equipment, like what happened with, you know, the wood price goes up or what have you. So it's $80,000.
That answers a lot.
Yeah.
See, that would be 12 grand.
Roll call motion to approve resolution 2021-20.
I'll put it in the form of a motion, or you set, you make it in
Thank
the
you.
form? Would you
I'll
like
second
me to-
it.
Trustee Arno?
Aye.
Trustee Menard?
Aye.
Trustee Pelkey?
Aye.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Aye.
And Mayor votes aye. We've already gone over 43 Chapman Street. List of things today. Trying to find the information on the truck. Which I probably left. Oh, no, here it is. So, there's a motor vehicle accident involving the 2009 F-150 pickup. And John went today and got to see what we could be quoted for repairs on the truck. And he brought it to Parker Chevrolet, and they basically said the truck wasn't worth fixing. So, we're gonna have to figure out what we want to do eventually on replacing this truck. I've got a copy of that. So this is what the blue book value of the truck is right here. And then on the other side, the other stapled papers is the report from Parker Chevrolet.
Mayor, were you able to get a copy of the police report? I know you sent me an email regarding that last week.
The only thing that I got a copy from the police was the contact information.
They said
For
we
the
needed to
insurance
wait a
info.
couple weeks before they could provide a report.
Okay, and it was indicated our employee he got traffic tickets?
That is going to be an executive session thing. I don't want to talk about the employee
Okay.
session.
That's fine.
So you're just bringing this forward that the truck is not repairable?
It's not worth fixing.
Well, I would think so. I mean, so the damage that's on there,
Yeah, number 9 also. But, do we have a full report on what's happening, what happened?
We still have to wait on the police report. Because I need to get that.
Do we have a report from the employee
Yes,
on what
there
happened?
was an accident form filled out. But I'm not going to talk about that in
No,
open session.
no, I just made sure that all the paperwork is filled out.
Yep.
Me.
Yeah, that's all I've got for that for the time being. Oh, boy. Okay, other reports. Pearl Street trees have been trimmed today. The sheriff report came in, and the acreage accounts for 2% of all calls in the village. The acreage is apparently rated as one of the safest housing sections in the area for how quiet Rouses Point is.
Based on what?
Just a number. Yeah, I know.
Come up with something better than that.
Yeah. That's what,
Ours is-
this isn't
I
from the
live there.
safe place, this is from the people that run the housing, and they send people here. They said this is the safest housing they have. Yeah,
Yeah, but still not, still a disruption to the village.
but yeah, the acreage itself only accounts for 2% of the calls in the village.
That's pretty big.
No, not when you're looking at 183 calls from the sheriff
Well,
department.
when they're only supposed to be here because they need housing.
Well, no, they're 2% of 183.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to,
That is,
I just look at it as if you're getting housing from the state, you shouldn't really need to.
Let's put it this way, not every scuffle, the police get called,
yeah,
or every disturbance.
Is that just sheriff's department or is that state police as well?
that is just the sheriff's. The state police didn't break it down so nicely.
Okay, yeah.
But they did tell us the Anchorage calls from the state police also. I
Yeah.
forwarded the reports to everybody.
Yeah, there wasn't that many state
Yeah.
police either.
No. So it's kind of, it's interesting
But
getting these
like you
statistics.
said, not every scuffle is called into the police, sheriff or police,
Or disturbance.
or disturbance, yes.
The stop sign on Maple and Chapman is more visible now that trees have been trimmed. Champlain Technology Group has contacted us about upgrading the rec center internet. They called today requesting that someone from the IT department help them. We don't have an IT department. But for, yeah, when they upgrade the internet service for the rec center, what they have is they have a static IP address serving the building, and they need to change the IP in order to upgrade the equipment. And since I went to college and I had networking in my college degree program, I'll be taking care of setting up all the IP systems. I've got a background for that. But it's a free upgrade. They're upgrading it from standard DSL to VDSL. It goes from 3 megabytes per second to 30. Spoke with the DOT about the sidewalk work. They're going to be using some parking spaces in downtown as part of their parking equipment and storing equipment while they do the work. They wanted to notify me of that because they'll be occupying those parking spaces. I also got a new contact for the rec center driveway because the guy I was speaking with a couple months ago has been reassigned. And he'll be coming over to actually look at the rec center parking lot and discuss further whether we actually need a permit or not. Which would explain why the other guy stopped responding to my emails because he no longer worked there. I spoke with the guy from the State Highway Department on the 29th. What's going on with the memorandum on the electric boilers, furnaces?
I did work on that about 2 weeks ago, because we did pass that local law, right, in the moratorium? Okay.
We extended the moratorium.
We extended it.
Extended it. So I have been tweaking that a little bit, but I have not heard back from the guy from the state who was supposed to contact me, but I will work on that again in the next week, couple weeks.
Okay, double checking to make sure I have everything. I have lots of papers today. That's done, that's done. That's done, that's done. Yeah, I think that's everything I've got. Trustee Arno?
The water plant fixed their atom system on the filters, and it's in working order, works very well. The sidewalk on Montgomery Street is half done, and the road has been chewed up to they can get ready for tarmacking. And I'd like to appoint Brandon Racine as the village historian.
Need a second on that?
Yeah.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. He's doing a good job and stuff, and I'm still giving him a hand to get things situated around and stuff like that. So I think he'll be good for the village.
And he's aware that's an unpaid voluntary position at the moment.
Yep, he knows that, yeah.
Could I just, point of order, that has to be a mayoral appointment, so
Yeah.
you're going to appoint Brandon?
Yes, I will appoint Brandon Racine as the village historian,
Okay.
as long as he understands that it's currently a voluntary and no pay position.
And what's the reason for that?
He's been working as a village historian just on his own anyway, and we can use a village historian to keep everything organized. And
No, that's not my question, is why is it not a paid position?
because we cut that from the budget.
No, we didn't.
It'll be in the budget next year.
Or did we?
Yeah, we cut it from the budget.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I thought we were just
And I don't know,
paying
I
them.
think,
Oh, no, if we had money in the
I think
budget.
Trustee Arno talked about this before, too, but I don't think anybody really had come forward, right, expressing interest.
That's right, yeah.
And
I
Brandon
asked,
did.
4 or 5 residents in the village and nobody wanted it and stuff, so Brandon and I, well, I was assistant historian, I've been doing some of the work and stuff like that, so I asked Brandon and he said, yeah, he said, I really, you know,
Makes sense.
yeah, and he's been working with his mother who passed here and stuff like that, so,
So he had a history in doing it.
yes, yeah.
No pun intended.
So I make the motion to appoint him to that position.
Thank you.
Will that need a roll call vote or
I think it's just a mayoral appointment.
Just a mayoral
subject to approval?
Yeah, I don't think you need to have any kind of role. It's your appointment. Okay.
No, I think
Subject to
almost
approval.
all appointments are subject to approval.
Are they?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
that's
they all
right.
voted
I'll
yes.
second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 I'd like an executive session on the history of a particular person.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm going to interrupt the order. I'd like to request an executive session to talk about the history of a particular employee.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd also like to request another executive session to talk about another employee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Menard.
Betty, you know.
I'm all done.
I would also like to request an executive session for administrative personnel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And that's all I have for this.
Trustee Pelkey?
I talked to Derek, what's his last name?
Rosenbaum.
Rosenbaum. And for him to come give us an estimate on the Rabideau Way, it would, just a ballpark, I asked him what it would cost for us to get approval. He said anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500. It would not be over 1,500. So I'd like to know how the board feels about going forward with selling the Rabideau Way trailer park. This is what we have to do. We have to get fair market value. And this is, we gotta make sure we have the paperwork in hand to go forward.
And this is for the
Basically,
appraisal.
he did the appraisal on it, I think.
He does all their appraisals, the commercial appraisal, and he would bring up a contract that's written out, and you would have to sign it, and that's what it would cost us. And we would make that money back when we sell the property, of course.
Yeah.
We can add that in.
Add that to it.
He'll do a good job.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with Derek Rosenbaum for the appraisal of the Rabideau Way trailer park to go forward in selling the property.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Not to exceed $1,500. Sorry.
Friendly amendment.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay, the next thing I have is the wastewater plant got an inspection from the DEC. Of course, it's a well-cleaned plant, it's well-ran, no problems, everything looks really good. They're bringing it to our attention that they want to start accepting waste from like independent outfits because we have such a large capacity without the Pfizer plant. So what most wastewater facilities do is they'll take tankers in from people that pump out septic tanks, and Champlain takes it, Plattsburgh takes it, and it's so much a gallon, and we get paid for it. So it would be extra revenue, and we do have the capacity to go forward, as long as it's at their discretion of what they can handle. And we want to make sure that it's just residential, it's not commercial, because commercial, you don't know what you get grease, you get all different kinds of whatever.
Chemical perhaps, right?
So what they're looking at is, it usually goes about 7 cents a gallon. So they're talking about 6,000 gallons a week, so it'd be about $420 a week that we would get paid. To go forward to accept just from one company to see how this can go. And there's 3 companies that are lining up that want to dump their waste. And Champlain takes waste right now, but they have such a small plant, they're at capacity, so they can't take any more. our plant is not at capacity. We have a lot of capacity, and we can make money. It's if the board wants to go forward in authorizing the superintendent of the wastewater to accept this, these proposals, and we would have to set the amount of what everybody is getting at 7 cents a gallon. And you're talking 6,000 gallons a week to start.
So this is something the DEC proposed this, Brian?
The DEC is okay with it. So Danny would, you know, our wastewater superintendent will make sure that all the paperwork is proper with the DEC. I already talked to our treasurer about the billing part of it. I mean, it seems like no problem, it's kind of a no-brainer. We can make some money in our wastewater plant, especially if we have the capacity.
Yep.
I think
We
that's a
just
good
bill
idea.
them and-
We just bill them and we collect our money, and it helps pay the debt down and saves the residents some money.
And do you bill like Morrisonville Septic, is that what you do?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Whoever,
Or Roto-Rooter or whatever?
Yes, there's like
Yeah.
3 companies, and it would have to be regulated. The gallons would be calculated. They would actually take a sample to make sure that they're not sending us any marsh. And in the agreement, it would be residential only, like septic systems.
yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
So do we have to put that as a form of a motion or something?
Yes, and set the rate, and then we can just drop some kind of a agreement, like, almost like a service application. And then we'll bill the companies once a month with a regular utility billing.
Is the board okay with that?
Yeah,
Yep.
sounds good.
Making a motion?
So I'll make that into a form of a motion, and we'll set the rate at 7 cents a gallon to start.
I'll second that.
What was the limit on the capacity we may have, Brian? Was there a-
They're gonna bring 6,000 gallons a week, one company, and they wanna see how this goes. And they could do 3 times, 4 times that
You
much.
could, you have that capacity?
We're rated to like 2 million gallons a day.
Yeah.
Okay, so no, I just asked the question.
Well, Pfizer used to dump 50% of the product into that wastewater plant. Now with Pfizer gone, the residents are dumping 50%. Say if they're at 50% capacity, but we still have 100% of the bills. So any way that we can deter some of this cost,
Right.
I'd like to go forward and
Yeah,
make
especially
money.
if it's easy as that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That thing's not gonna notice 6,000 gallons a week.
No, no. Some people leave their faucets on, and probably more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're good with that?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, who seconded?
I did.
Benny.
Benny seconded. Okay.
I need an executive session to talk about electric contracts.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Rodriguez? What, are you done?
That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Rodriguez?
The new dugout's in at the ball field down here, so I'd like to thank Adam, Heath, Jeff, and all of Ethan's crew. They did a good job on that. Also,
Looks good.
Jay and Laterno went around on the path, put a bunch of little bases for the kids and stuff on the chalk. Went around and looked at it all, took pictures of it on my phone, so I wanna thank her for doing that. Looks good down there, kids are having fun. Also, I'd like to know, is there any update, Susan? I mean, you were supposed to reach out to the people that house them in the Anchorage about maybe
Yes.
doing more room
Yes.
searches or something?
Yes, I did contact the person at Social Services, and they agreed that they will do a sweep approximately monthly, so that, you know, it won't be on a scheduled day, that they'll come in monthly and sweep the drug and alcohol and extra people in the rooms.
I'd also like an executive session to talk about a particular employee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Other reports?
I forgot 2, sorry. Mr. Cooper, can you take and, I got a complaint from a resident on State Street, Myers. The sidewalk is 3/4 covered with grass and tree debris or whatever.
Last year I got with their maintenance man that's out there. This year I've tried to catch him. I haven't done it, but I've knocked on, you know, you can't get in the building, as you guys are well aware of. because we all know what's going on there. But anyway, I tried to get hold of the maintenance man to see if I can bring up the, I'll keep trying until I snag somebody.
Okay, yeah,
Because
because
last year I got after him and then he cleaned it all up, so.
some of the
Yeah,
residents
but I
are
want,
complaining that
it's
the
not
grass
just him,
is
there's a whole bunch of them,
hanging over.
because I'm worried about the plows this winter.
Yeah.
No, so we can't have that.
Okay, and the other thing I have is, New York Power Authority is supplying trees again this year, but not for residents in the village, only for the village itself. So if we wanna look over the tree program and see if we can buy some more trees or whatever.
It's not a big selection there, is it?
There's,
11.
4, 6, 8, 11 different trees. Yep. And they range from $62 to $204, or $104, sorry, $132. So, that's it.
Okay, other reports?
I'll report on the shade trees, there's nothing in the budget for shade trees, so just so you know.
Oh,
And a few more.
We did get our first installment of the American Rescue Plan Act. It's a little over $108,000. We're sitting on the webinar more about that to see what the rules and regulations are concerning how those monies can be used. And we also got, Susan did a reimbursement to, I think it's called the MVR grant,
NBRC.
MVRC grant for $110,000, which was record time. She put it in, we got the money like 5 days later. Oh, wow. That's the fastest we ever got money from the state. That's all I have.
any other reports? Any public comments? Open meeting to the public? Yep.
Scott Richner, 16 Pratt Street. I just had a couple questions, but on the Anchorage thing, the percentage you gave, is that for calls or for the percentage of citations written?
That is for the number of calls.
The actual calls?
2% for, we got almost 200 calls, and it was 2% of those calls were that.
Okay, that's what I was
It
wondering.
was
I
about
didn't
4
know if
or
it
5
was-
calls.
If that was the number of citations written, tickets or whatever.
That's just a number of calls to the site.
Okay. And my other question kind of piggybacks on the septic system, or the septic company dumping. With all the RV traffic that goes through there, would there be any way to eventually set up a camper dump site to empty out RVs and campers on their way through?
Problem with that is they use a special chemical for the sewage so it doesn't smell, and they're afraid that there's not enough study on how it would affect our system. Or they'd rather take the raw sewage from
Okay.
a septic tank, and that's what we're looking at. We
Okay.
try to stay away from pump outs,
Okay.
porta potty pump outs
Yep.
and those things, until they figure out of what we're getting.
Okay.
We want to make sure we don't get something that's going to harm our system.
Costs us
So-
more money.
Right, so if we get all these special chemicals dumped in, it could harm our system and slow our system down, which we don't want.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, that was just
yeah,
kind of
no, it's a good idea.
throwing an idea out
It
there.
is a good idea.
We have campers going through, hopefully not staying too long,
So,
and just camper traffic all day, every day on Route 11.
it's actually part of the plan to see how that would work. They would probably try a little bit and see what the different companies that would dump, and of course, they do tests every day, and they do 2-3 times a test every, 2-3 tests every day, and just to make sure that the bacteria is good bacteria for what we need.
Yeah, because there's a lot of campers you see go through, they're obviously long distance campers. They might not be stopping at every campground every night, so their tank might be full, they might be looking for a dump station. I was just wondering if that could eventually be a source of revenue as they're passing through. for us.
I did ask that question today, and Champlain says it doesn't hurt their system, but their system is different from ours, so we just want to make sure that we do everything the proper way. And especially keeping the DEC happy, and because we have a top-rated plant up here, and we want to keep it that way. But any way to make revenue, of course,
Yeah.
we're all looking to, to make money.
That's all I have.
Yes?
I got a question. What happened to the planning and zoning board in the village of Rouses Point? I'm just wondering, did they do away with it? Who does that now? Like Mr. Manane was talking about how areas change and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? So you really need a planning and changing, a planning board, right?
Yes, we do have
We
one.
need those two boards, yeah.
They've been combined, it used to be a planning board and a zoning board.
Mhm.
They were combined into one board because they were having a hard time finding people to sit on it.
Yeah.
And they've been taking the lead in the comprehensive plan, but they don't have budgeting powers. So when it comes to budgeting and money expenditure, it comes to us for like approving
I was
the grade
just-
process for next year.
I was just wondering, where it's gone, because like Mr. Manane said, things are changing. You have to have a board or something in order to bring this to the village board, so everybody can work together to find out what's best and what's not best. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I know the board still exists, they don't have a lot of meetings, doesn't appear to be a lot of applications that would require meetings, and planning board generally deals with subdivisions, and again, the village is only so big, you don't see a lot of subdivision projects going on in the village. Zoning board, I mean, again, depends if there's use variances, area variances, special use permit applications, it all really depends on what's being applied.
Did they rename it as like the zoning board of appeals or something?
It's zoning board of appeals anyway.
Yeah, so, it's still active, Bob.
Yeah, there was a-
They don't
We
meet as
just
much
had
as
to
they
have a lot of
actually.
applications.
Yeah. There was two of them. There was the zoning
Yeah.
board and the other.
Yeah, they have combined into one now.
I was just
Board
curious.
Historically had not met very much.
No.
And they have been doing a fantastic job working on the comprehensive plan, so.
So I'm not complaining, I'm just asking where it's gone, and what's happened to it,
Yeah, they're still here.
Still very active. Okay. Any other public comments? Thank you all for being a very lively crowd today.
I make a motion, we go into recess.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Stop.
You got your coat.